Birmingham, Alabama, 1963. At the time, Birmingham, Alabama was very segregated and had a lot of racial laws and racial signs. Their leader, Bill Connor, was extremely racist and got elected 4 times for it. In this time frame, Dr. King was going everywhere trying to help and fix segregation.
My feet can't touch the ground.
At this time, Birmingham was considered the most segregated place in the U.S., and that's where Dr. King decided he would go next to fix the problem. Dr. King Jr. tried to do a couple peaceful protests, but he kept on getting locked up every time he tried. So, there was no other option. Could King keep on going with the circumstances? Keep on being put behind bars? They had to figure out another way. He couldn't help behind bars. After King was released, he immediately went to the church. That's where most discussions were held. King asked for volunteers to help march. No one stood. The children stood. They stood strong. They felt that they needed a better tomorrow, a better life worth living. And there started the idea of the Children's March. Dr. King decided that the kids should march and fill the jails. Then the parents and King could do their work without having to worry about getting arrested. The plan was for the kids to do very peaceful protests, nothing get out of hand, just enough to get them arrested. That's all they needed. And there the protests began. They began to protest, but only peacefully, with signs, words. The kids would even fill the streets dancing. It was nothing to get out of hand about, but the police still took them to jail. And some say it's because of the color of their skin, not the crimes they had faced. Kids with their age ranging 7 and up were getting arrested, but they were fine with it. Bill Connor and his judges didn't understand, but the kids did. They knew they were doing something good. The next day, even more got arrested. They thought that the first group put a spark in their heart. They were pouring out of school buildings. Bill Connor tried to burn out the little fire in their hearts, but they kept on going. The water hoses were on low, so they weren't very painful. It was more of just a sprinkler to them. And the dogs were pulled out just to scare. But the kids, they kept on having fun. They kept on dancing. They kept on playing. And that's what made Bill Connor even madder. He couldn't arrest them all. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't catch them. So, he continued to do it. He continued to spray them with the hoses and threaten them and everything else that he could do. Bill Connor's acts were just getting more violent and more violent, but the kids, they kept on standing and unite. That's what made him even madder. He knew he couldn't affect them. He knew he wasn't hurting their feelings. He knew he wasn't going to burn out that little fire in their heart. Bill Connor brought in backup, and the fire hoses were brought out again, turned up higher so they stung when they hit the kids.
My face above the water.
Kids who weren't lucky enough to huddle in a group got scraped across the sidewalk, leaving wounds and bruises all up and down their body. Eventually, after about 4 hours of this going on, they finally arrested the kids. They put them in jail, and they seemed fine with it. The jails were getting filled, and Bill Connor was getting mad. Some protesters weren't as nice. They started throwing rocks. Bill Connor requested backup, and he brung in a tank. A tank, just to scare some children who were peacefully protesting for the most part. He also brung in German Shepherd dogs, who were sicking the children and biting them, leaving deep wounds and making some have to go to the hospital for stitches. The police continued to use the dogs. After a long day of work, they were done with it. They had the dogs sicking the kids on purpose, biting them, ripping them open. There was about 20 kids who had to go to the hospital that day, all under the age of 18.
Wave after wave, wave after wave, I'm slowly drifting.
Didn't stop there though. The painful acts still continued. The police thought they knew what they were doing, but they were really just hurting themselves. The kids, they were happy. They were doing what they needed to do to have a brighter future and a better future for themselves. The word got out. Children in jail, it was all over the news, all over the radio stations, and everybody knew about it. And the kids were so happy to see that they had made it. They had actually accomplished it. The conditions in the jails were very poor. Some kids didn't even have a bed to sleep on. Some got out within 2 to 3 days, and some got out within a week. And afterwards, they had a meeting at the church discussing how proud they were of the children and how happy they were that they got the word out. The kids believed that the suffering they got in jail was only a small portion based on the receivement they got. They got to finally show that they mean something more. Dr. King got to put his words out there. Important people started hearing about the problem. He had meetings. And on June 11th, 1963, President John F. Kennedy got on their TV screens.
Slowly drifting.
He announced that day that everybody deserved their own freedom, and that everybody deserved to be treated equal with equal rights, no matter what color their skin was. The only reason he knew about the movement was because of the Children's March.